Hey guys, so I wanted to record my entire thought process for doing this final character design project. In this, I wanted to hit on each of the major points that you should be thinking about for your design as well. To start this off, make sure you read through all of my project instructions. Make sure you understand what I'm looking for your character's design. He must have a head, an upper body, and at least one moving arm. And also make sure you understand what I mean for your character's animation. I want to see a rough animation, some sort of frame by frame of some parts, and some sort of tweened animation and lip syncing. And then finally, make sure you record yourself giving a good welcome message. Hi, my name is, welcome to digital animation. Now beyond this, it's really up to you how you want to design your character and set up the entire animation. There is a lot of openness to this design. Feel free to exaggerate your character and don't be shy about overacting and giving some good personality to your overall design. I want you to have fun with this through all the different stages. So let's get started. Now the first thing I've done is do a recording of myself saying my script. You can see when I did this, I acted out and I tried to actually overact every part of this design. Now the audio quality for this isn't very good, so later on I'm going to go back in and record just the audio of myself saying that particular part. But for now, this is actually really good to use just to do my rough animation. My idea is I want to have myself doing a welcome message. Hi, notice that only one arm is moving. My head is moving, and when I do my head movements, everything is nice and exaggerated. And then I'm going to do this little hand movement. Now this part here, I want to have the words digital animation appear on my screen. This is my own personal take on it. You don't have to do it for yours, but I think it would be cool to have each of the letters popping out and forming as I present digital animation. And then I have some nice follow through where I look at the characters, turn back, and then go back to my original starting point. Hopefully that if I animate this correctly, I can do so that it's nice and loopable and looks really, really cool. So this is the first thing I've done is recorded myself. Next thing I need to do is to set up my document and import this so that I can do my rough animation on top of it. To set up my document, we'll jump into Animate. Now the size of my document, I really don't give you a specific size to work with, but I'm just going to keep it as a full HD, so 1920 by 1080. But I am going to change my frame rate up to 24 frames per second. We'll keep it at ActionScript 3 and say Create. This will give us, of course, our new document. I'm going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing. And let's go down to our Layers panel, and let's make this our movie layer, so I can import my recording to it. We'll go up to File, Import, and we're going to import a video. Just as we've done before, we want to import and step through this entire process. This will be on my computer, and we want to embed an H4 or whatever video for design only. So this very last one is where we can browse. I've got mine on my desktop, and we'll say Open. I can hit Next. And how do we want to import it? We'll just choose the default thing. We don't even need to include audio, but I really want to be able to see each part of it. We'll say Finish. Give it a second to think about it. And now you can see my entire animation is now on my timeline. With that done, we can return to our timeline one more time. Let's make a new layer, and this will be my rough animation layer. Inside of this is where we can draw off each individual part of exactly where it needs to be. Now, one thing you may want to do before we jump into rough animation is to select your movie symbol and place it exactly where you want it to go. So for instance, if I need to make myself larger, I'm going to choose my Transform tool. Let's scale it up just a bit. Do make sure you hold down Shift. And I'm also going to move mine over just slightly so that I got more room off to the right-hand side to say digital animation and animate out each of those individual characters. So now that I got my movie clip looking good, we can play through, make sure I've got plenty of room. Yep, that looks good. I'm going to go down to my timeline and let's lock down that particular layer, and everything else I do is going to be on my rough animation layer. When you do the painting for your rough animation, remember you can use any of the drawing tools that you think are appropriate. Especially if you're having a digital drawing tablet, I'd recommend using some of the brush tools or even the pencil tool. But if you want to use your mouse or your trackpad, then maybe the pen tool will give you a little bit more control. It's really whatever you're most comfortable with. The rough animation doesn't have to be highly detailed, but it should give me a clear indication of where each of your body parts will be along the timeline. I'm going to use my regular brush tool, and remember with this tool you can go to your properties. I'm going to turn my object drawing mode off so that it'll be a little bit easier to erase things away. We'll set it to a color that's nice and visible. I think that bright red will work well for me. If I was to test it out, I think that's a little bit too thick, so maybe I'll set my brush thickness down. About 5 is good for here. From here, now I can go in and start to rough out the body, different parts of the body, and then move it along to a different keyframe and adjust it as necessary. All right, I'm going to zoom in. Again, I've got my brush tool, and I'm just going to rough in the body first, and then maybe I'll focus on the head and features in just a second. All right, now that I've got everything drawn off and outlined, I can go through and start to create new keyframes for each major movement within my design. So going down to my timeline, I'm going to scrub my head over, and I can see the next major thing is my mouth is opening, I'm leaning back, and I give a big hi. So mainly what I need to move is my body a little bit, definitely my arm, and my head position, saying hi as I move out. So for this one, I'm going to have my arm change up. So I'm going to do it in between. So let's say I'll start at this first second. I'll make a new keyframe. Now because I was drawing with the object drawing mode turned off, this is going to make it very easy to select and erase away or even alter up everything that I need. Let me show you what I mean. So if I go up to my head, I'm going to take this position of my head and I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to change up my mouth so that it's a little bit different. So using my selection tools, in this case I'm going to use my Lasso tool. With the Lasso tool, this allows me to select just my head area by clicking and dragging around it. With all of that selected, I can use my free transform tool. I can rotate it, nudge it over, and now my head's in a completely new position. Also from here I can do things like select just the mouth. Do make sure you got your Lasso tool. There we go. Select the mouth area. And I'll tell you what, let's do this inside portion. We'll have it open. Grab my brush tool and repaint the mouth being much larger. Open. Hi. And just for the fun of it, I'm also going to select my eyebrows and use my move tool and move those up. So as I say hi, my eyebrows are raising and my head is turning. My arm needs to move. So with my arm, I don't necessarily just want to change up this, I need to change up the whole position. Now it is blurry, but that's okay. That just needs to let me know where my hand needs to be. So with that, maybe I'll choose my selection tool and I'll select as much of my arm and hand as possible. Clicking and dragging around with that. Grab my transform tool, let's rotate it. I'm going to move my center point over to my elbow. So now when I rotate it, the whole arm rotates into place. That looks pretty good. With that done, now I need to just draw in the rest of my body. Grab my brush tool, make my brush a little bit bigger, and paint off whatever is missing from here. So there's the next keyframe. Let's go to the next keyframe. Maybe in this case, it'll have my arm fully extended out to this way. So with that done, going down to my timeline, create another keyframe, F6. Then I'll go in and make the appropriate edits. Now you don't always have to make a selection. That just helps me from having to redraw everything. You can use your eraser tool, or you can go in and redraw completely from scratch. In my case, I think making the selection and tweaking and changing works out much, much better in my favor. Let's do the same for the hand. Now this hand is obviously going all the way across here. In this case, maybe I will select everything and delete away my arm that I have, because I want to be able to redraw it, but also have it look nice and consistent. So I'm going to get rid of my arm by selecting all of this, just deleting it away. Now I can grab my brush tool. Let's redraw the arm where it needs to be. Or if it messes up or has a little glitch, totally fine. Just go back and redraw it till it fits your design. There's my wrist, forearm. And my hand needs to be turned outward this way. We'll place that. So now if I'm looking at my rough animation, we'll turn off my video. Hi. You can see my head moves and my arm moves along with it. Take this one part at a time, going through all of the major movements, create a new keyframe, and then rough in the overall position, changing up each part as you need. Now with this done, we'll zoom in. We'll go back to our beginning frame, and you can see as it plays through, I've got a major rough sketch for all of the keyframes on my layer. If it was to play through without the video layer, this is the starting point for the rest of my animation. Now I can focus on creating a design for my character and for myself that matches this rough animation. I think the only thing that I really left off was adding on the letters, but I'm going to take that as a later challenge for a later video.